Now we are going to use our rational equation solving skills to find the solution of different types of word problems. The equation that we are going to be working off of for these types of problems is the equation rate times time equals distance. And this equation is going to help us model different situations so then we can create equations that represent the situation. So we'll be working with it in different forms, such as rate times time equals distance, or time equals distance over the rate. We can model the following word problem using a rational equation. Jesse and Bobby are working together to paint a living room wall. Jesse can paint the wall in 8 hours and Bobby can paint the wall in 4 hours. How long will it take them to paint the wall together? We can use the following equation to model this situation. 1 over the time it takes Jesse to paint the wall plus 1 over the time it takes Bobby to paint the wall, and that will equal 1 over the time it takes them to paint the wall together. Where this equation comes from is the rate times time equals distance formula. We'll set up the first fraction to represent how long it would take Jesse to paint the wall. 1 over 8. What 8 is, that's our rate. And 1 is technically our distance because that's how long it would take him to cover the whole wall with paint. And what we'll do is we will add however long it takes Bobby to paint one wall. So rate over distance. And we're going to set that equal to however long it takes them to paint one wall together. We don't know the time. That's our variable. But it's the same idea. This is the distance. This is the rate. And what we've just done is set the times equal to each other, because this fraction represents the time Jesse's going to be painting. This represents the time Bobby's going to be painting, and it's going to equal the amount of time that they've worked together to paint the same wall. So now that we have our equation, we can use our rational equation solving skills to find the answer. So the first thing we're going to do, LCD, 8x, multiply everything by 8x. So we're going to end up with x plus 2x equals 8. 3x equals 8. Our final answer is going to be x equals 8 over 3. And like always, whenever we have a word problem, you need to finish your answer with a complete sentence. It will take them 2 2/3 hours to paint the wall together. Here's another example of how we can use rational expressions to model word problems. Carlos travels 40 miles on his motorcycle in the same time it takes Paul to travel 15 miles on his bike. If Paul rides 20 miles slower than Carlos, find the speed of each bike. The first thing we need to do is to organize all of the information that we have. We know that Carlos is going to travel 40 miles. So his distance is 40. we do not know anything about Carlos's rate, so that is going to be our variable x. And Paul travels 15 miles on his bike, and we know that he is 20 miles an hour slower than Carlos. So if Carlos is going at a rate of x miles per hour, Paul is going to be x minus 20. And we know that, the last thing we know, it takes them the same amount of time. So we're going to work off of our rate times time equals distance formula again. I'm going to solve for t by dividing by r. We know that the times are going to be equal, so it's fair to say that the distance over rate for Carlos is going to be the exact same as the distance divided by the rate of Paul. So we're going to fill in our information. 40 over x equals 15 over x minus 20. And now we can go ahead and use our rational equation solving skills again. This time we're going to cross multiply. End up with 40x minus 80 equals 15x. And then x is going to equal, 800. X is going to equal 25x equals 800. And our final answer is going to be 32. After we divide, write that in a complete sentence. Carlos's speed is 32 miles an hour, since that was our x from before. And that means Paul's speed is going to be 20 miles an hour less, so his speed is going to be 12.